Good afternoon, good morning. Thank you everybody for attending our webinar today. For the next 35 minutes, I'm going to be talking about the B2B sales experience and how we have truly transitioned over from this approach of outside sales navigation and really bringing that in-house to what we all know as inside sales. So if you haven't heard yet, we've officially entered the B2B experience economy. Customers are demanding more now than ever before, and businesses must really be ready to meet their expectations and continuously prove their value throughout the entirety of the customer relationship. This holds true throughout what we like to call the customer journey experience, or as ServiceSource has labeled it, CJX. So the CJX encompasses every single touch point with a customer, from the moment of contact to development of a sales leads, when we're signing them on as a contract net new, through onboarding, adoption, expansion, all the way through to renewal. In this current competitive environment, you need to be on top of your game and operate with a customer-centric mindset. So it's really kind of good to say that, however, in the past, this just wasn't the case. So in the past years, service agreements meant that you, the customer, were locked into this contract for multiple years. This was not an issue if your vendors were meeting your needs. But if something was going well, or wasn't going well, I should say, you had little recourse other than trying to work with your customer service rep to solve the issue, or unfortunately, abandon the product entirely, thereby losing all value from the partnership. That's all changed though. We've started to see this shift in the way that vendors engage with you and your organization. With the advent of cloud economy and subscription pricing models in the B2B space, vendors have had to become much more agile in their approach with customers like yourself. So if a vendor isn't adding value across the customer journey experience, it's much easier now than it has been in the past for companies to jump ship to another provider who's really just going to meet your needs in a more efficient and cost-effective manner. So the customer journey experience and the first impression you make with a customer all starts with the sale, making it absolutely critical you nail down your process. So in order to build a strong foundation of, for new revenue and growth, you need sales professionals with a deep understanding of your business's product value, market importance, competitive differentiators. They also need to deliver a positive brand experience from the very start. The value of that really just can't be underestimated. The Harvard Business Review states that 84% of B2B buyers begin their purchase process via referrals, and 90% of all buying decisions are made after receiving a peer recommendation. So it's important you give your customers something to rave about, not only during the sales process, but throughout the entire customer journey experience. Otherwise, you're guaranteed to miss out on future revenue and growth opportunities. Unfortunately, today the B2B purchasing process has become far too complex and difficult. There's too much information out there for buyers to sift through, and your salespeople aren't personalizing the buying experience, oftentimes not bringing the most relevant information to your prospects. This results in your sales team taking this cookie cutter approach, when each customer is really expecting you to speak to and answer their own specific problems and unique needs. So this cookie cutter approach, it's not working. It's showing in your sales numbers and revenue. Sales teams today are working harder, not smarter, and are really missing their quotas and wondering what in the world is going wrong. A Salesforce study found that 50% of salespeople expected to miss their quota in 2018. So to get past this, your company must recognize the gaps in your selling strategies, adapt, and create a seamless, frictionless process that works for both you and your prospects. In large organizations, there are often multiple stakeholders involved in a purchase. So each one of them is really expecting this value base on their individual needs and pain points. And the question is, are you addressing all of them? B2B companies really have increasingly moved to inside sales as a strategy to improve their sales organization overall. Nowadays, prospects are much more comfortable meeting virtually than they ever were in the past. It's actually practically expected at this point, at least for the first few meetings, you know. Salesforce research shows that time spent meeting online with customers increased 3 times compared with a meeting in person. What does this mean for you? This means sales talent can actually be located anywhere. So instead of housing people in major centers of businesses or business like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, you can increase your margins by having salespeople in much lower cost centers or even remote. That's why outsourcing sales has quickly become a common approach to scale growth. By outsourcing, you can augment your existing sales organization by adding dedicated and knowledgeable sales pros who's going to maximize your revenue increases while at the same time keeping your costs manageable. Additionally, you can target one specific geographical region you might need help in, or add sales teams from all over the globe, whatever really aligns best with your intended growth strategy. You know, perhaps one of the most crucial benefits of outsourcing sales, it frees up critical internal resources, allow you to focus on doing what you do best, and that's delivering an outstanding product or service to the world. For these reasons, outsourced inside sales has continued to grow at a faster pace than field sales across several industries, a trend that's only going to continue as businesses adapt to a more digital world. So we've established that B2B sales have changed in a big way, and buyers are demanding a different approach. The good news here is you can make the buying process, you know, much easier, much simpler by designing a process that does a better job of meeting your prospects' needs. You know, I'd like to point out by making the point that it's critically important you understand that the typical buying journey isn't this linear path. In fact, Gartner found that there are 6 different buying jobs that B2B prospects typically need to accomplish before making a purchase. And you can see these buying jobs that I've listed right here. These include problem identification, solution exploration, requirements building, supplier selection, validation, and consensus creations. Buyers are consistently jumping back and forth between all these jobs, revisiting them at different points in the process. So while in your mind you think the sale should be this straightforward process, one that can be replicated across all of your prospects, that's just not the reality. You need to meet your buyers wherever they are in the journey and adjust your approach accordingly. Spend some time trying to anticipate any roadblocks you may think may come up in the buying process ahead of time, and, you know, solve for those in advance. You can consider what's worked for some of your prospects and what hasn't, and improve your approach. One of these kind of improvements that buyers have shown just a clear desire for is a more personalized experience. They don't have time to deal with the cookie cutter approach, so it's critical your sales teams hit prospects with the right information at the right time. There's too much sales content and collateral out there that they have to go through. So as I mentioned before, your prospects are just overwhelmed with an overload in information, and it's affecting their experience. You know, Gartner states that customers spend 15% of their entire buying cycle just deconstructing all the content they received. And Forrester research uncovered that 78% of buyers say salespeople often present irrelevant or incorrect materials during meetings. You know, even another study that we found showed that 60% of C-level executives and 82% of VPs say not understanding sales content and not being able to easily share content slow down the purchasing decisions. So this lack of attention to detail is truly killing your sales numbers. However, if you can offer a more personalized experience, you're building rapport and adding value to the prospect right off the bat. If your reps are able to personalize the information a prospect receives, there is a 40% increase in purchasing ease. Positive experiences like these are tied to lower buyers' regret rates and higher customer loyalty over time. This is just one indication of how creating a more personalized purchasing experience is mutually beneficial for all involved. So this brings us to our next point. You can have the greatest sales process in the world, but the actual success of the process is dependent on the people you rely on to actually make it happen. Spend the time necessary to find the right salespeople, because it's going to make a world of a difference. Look for individuals who are empathetic, tech savvy, driven, open to training, coaching, evolving, and continuously improving. That's not all the characteristics on that list by any means, but it's a great place to start. Since we're, talking about the people driving your sales, I'd also like to take some time to note that really has been this kind of increasing trend of aligning your sales and marketing teams together. This is a move that's been gaining a lot of steam lately, and it really makes too much sense to kind of ignore it or not try it out or not do it. So by doing this, sales has closer access to the lead data that marketing generates through campaigns. Then marketing can fine-tune their campaigns and processes based on feedback they receive from sales. Not only that, but it makes the lead handoff much more seamless. So a lot of communication is happening at this point. So let's say you have a rock-solid sales process that you fine-tuned over time, and people who can personalize the experience based on your prospect's specific individual needs, that's great. But you can't forget the third piece of the equation, and that's technology. Unless you have a single view of the prospect, it's going to be incredibly difficult for your star salespeople to deliver a great buying experience. Research from ServiceSource shows that 68% of sales professionals say it is absolutely critical or very important to have a single view of the customer across departments and roles. But only 17% of sales team rate their single view of the customer capabilities as outstanding, which means this is a shortfall that your company may be experiencing. So by using an advanced sales platform or a CRM system, you can gather critical information from the prospect at every point along the sales journey. Let's face it, knowledge is power. By having those insights instantly accessible from one centralized location, you can engineer a more effective sales process and personalize your approach. The technology makes the entire experience smoother and improves processes, so you can take a closer look at what's happening with your deals and close them quicker. Not to mention, when your customer success or renewal teams are interacting with the customer after they sign, they'll be more informed and can use those insights you've gathered to create a more cohesive and streamlined approach, which promotes retention. They'll know what worked and what didn't work during the sales journey, and they can leverage that information to make better decisions within their specific post-sale job functions. Additionally, I'd like to mention that the growth in artificial intelligence, AI, technologies is going to have an impact on sales. Salesforce research showed that sales leaders expected their adoption of AI technologies to increase by 155% from 2018 to 2020. So it's a win for both buyers and vendors. Why is this positive? Because your sales teams are going to be much more informed and efficient. I'd really like to call out a truly good example of a business leveraging technology to improve and add value to its sales process. So this Australian-based explosive materials company, Orca, built a proprietary online platform named BlastIQ, which really leverages the power of customer data from past use cases. So Orca's prospects can use this information to simulate their own upcoming blasts with predictive modeling and fine-tune for effectiveness and efficiency. The end results for the customers after using this platform, they receive cost reduction, time savings, and improved outcomes. So you simply can't overlook the power that technology can have in helping you gain a competitive advantage, improve your sales process, and really increase sales in ways you weren't able to in the past. So what does all this mean? Why should this be important to you? Well, a better sales experience starts with your relationship with the customer off on the right foot. It's somewhat of a snowball effect across the customer journey experience, with each phase feeding into the next. So if you have this well thought out process in place, buyers have lower rates of remorse after the purchase and honestly feel more confident in their decision to have entrusted their success with your business. That confidence increases the likelihood they will grow their relationship with you through your expansion efforts, such as upselling and cross-selling, which really just leads to more revenue for you over time. And, once you've been successfully executing for a while, you're well on your way to a better customer journey experience, which leads again to higher retention rates and revenue you can depend on year after year. So over the last 30 minutes or so, we've spoken about the importance of tightening up your sales process to ensure it's as effective as it can be, and how the momentum of a great sale will start your new customer relationship off on the right foot. But even if you have that great start, you can't leave the rest of the relationship up to chance. So that's why we at ServiceSource offer this outsourced solution to really cover every phase of this customer journey experience. We work with some of the world's leading companies to improve their sales teams, the lead generation, acquiring net new logos, account management capabilities, customer onboarding, adoption, an expansion all the way through retaining more of your revenue. So ServiceSource has some of the best people in the business, and we're located all over the world. We also have 2 decades of knowledge and a strong tech platform to help all of this be executed. And you know what? Not only that, we just added new digital commerce capabilities to our suite of solutions. So this helps us digitize and automate transactions to drive better efficiencies, creating unified online and offline experiences that enable a blended right touch with our clients' customers. So we have covered quite a bit of information here. I'd like to open it up to the audience for any questions.
Hi, Melinda. So the first question we received is, you touched on a few characteristics of top salespeople. What are some other traits you should look for in those people?
One of my biggest traits is finding somebody that is motivated easily. They have a drive. Whatever direction that drive may be in, you can't sometimes teach motivation and drive. So making sure that they have this drive to want to do better, be better, etc. Another big piece to that is having the coaching capabilities built in. One of my favorite types of people I love to hire are athletes, and that's just simply due to those 2 characteristics. They have drive and motivation in their life, and they're coachable.
Great. Another question we got from the audience: what technologies and tools are you familiar with that drive the biggest positive impact on the sales process?
Great question. I get this a lot, and honestly, there's so many technologies out there to choose from, and it can be very easy to get sucked in and just get all these different technologies throughout this process to help you do certain things. And I've been a victim to that, where I've had 8 different tools that my SDRs, AEs, and AMs are using all throughout the sales process, and it becomes overwhelming. So one of my obvious tools that you hands down need is a good CRM, Salesforce. It's keeps all of your content. It's a record keeper. So if anything needs to be looked back at history past, what they're doing, activity, it's all in Salesforce. But one of my other favorite tools is a sales enablement tool. So that's referring to like an outreach or a sales loft. There's just so much benefit to using a tool like that, in the sense of seeing the transparency of what your salespeople are actually doing, all the way through, calls, being able to listen to those calls, coach them, the emails, all of this stuff. The other piece to that sales enablement tool that a lot of people don't have insight into is the messaging. How are your emails performing? You can get very quick insight within weeks of, is this email, is this subject line working, is the body of the email working, and be able to pivot and change if it's not working, rather than waiting months and realizing, oh my gosh, what we were doing was not working. That's another one of my top tools, and I would say in conjunction with that is having a good kind of contact information tool. So something like a Zoom Info, Discover Org. Those two tools are just, it helps with your sales reps sitting there spending time trying to search for contact information, phone numbers, all of that stuff. So it just makes your people much more efficient, and they're able to get through a lot more throughout the day than they were able to in the past without those tools.
Thanks, Melinda. That's some great insight. The final question we received is, if you're looking to outsource a portion or even all of your sales organization, what qualities should you be looking for in a provider of those solutions?
Great question. So I would start with probably experience. I mean, first off, you want to make sure the outsourcer that you're looking at, they've done this many times before, and honestly with premier clients. They have a good history of different types of companies they have worked with. I think another piece to that would be making sure they're digitally advanced with kind of this robust tech platform. So they have the technology in place to get the job done and get it done efficiently, and also deliver back metrics and reports back to you so that you can see how they're performing. I think another important piece is somebody that understands and offers the solution end to end. So they know and understand the lead generation, the sales development, net new wins. Being able to go through all of those processes and not just do one little piece is pretty important to what you're doing in a sense. Another important piece to maybe not everybody, but some people, is having a global footprint. Sometimes it's hard to open up when you're going globally, and getting an outsourcer that already has a global footprint, understands what it's like working in those different countries, that's really important. And another final piece I would say is just a customer or a company that just cares about making their salespeople better, training them, developing them, coaching them. That is pretty important, and you'll see huge results when you find a company that puts the time and effort into developing their people.
Awesome. So it looks like those are all the questions we received. So
well, great.
you all. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.